Today I have guest speaker today is Chenoa Parr. Chenoa was actually introduced to me by one of our practice growth experts, Andrea Higginbottom. I'm not sure of the entire background. Maybe you can allude to that for me, Chenoa, when we get there. But Andrea spoke incredibly highly of Chenoa. Chenoa is a PR expert, as the advertising suggested, and many of you will know that part of our 7-stage methodology for helping accountants really achieve their own aspirations for the practice is one of them is profile. And in profile, we really look in depth at how do you really raise your profile in the marketplace, both online and offline. But one of the ways of maybe ticking both of those boxes is through PR, because you can get you can really fast forward and shortcut the exposure to the great stuff that you can do in your accountancy practice through the power of PR, and in a very free way, certainly being one of those ways. So incredibly useful. In fact, just before I do hand over to Chenoa, I recently visited an accountancy practice, one of our AVM member firms, based in North Yorkshire, just 2 or 3 weeks ago. And as I walked in there, I'd arrived a little bit early, so I sat at reception, and there were two, basically just those black folders sat on the reception desk with nice print at the front. One of them basically said, here are our testimonials and case studies where we've made a profound difference to our clients. And the other one says basically our press cuttings. And talk about instant credibility. And I glanced through both of them. The case studies are amazing, but the press cuttings, interesting. You know, when we think of press cuttings, we're almost thinking it's old-fashioned to see stuff in newspapers these days. Obviously, there's still many printed, but actually there were screenshots in there of some of the online versions as well that have just been literally screenshotted, printed out, and put in there as well, so people can see that additional level of credibility that's out there. So really important stuff. I've probably waffled on enough. Let me introduce you to Chenoa. And Chenoa, if you can give us a bit of background about yourself, and then I will just switch off my video and leave the whole thing over to you, and I'll come back in at the end. Just one final thing for the audience. There is a chat box at the bottom. Feel free to pop in any questions. I don't know whether you'll pick up on those during, Chenoa, or whether you'd rather just see to those at the end.
Yeah.
The session is being recorded. Is that okay with you, by the way, Chenoa? Is that
Fab. Yeah,
that's brilliant. Okay, so if for any reason you don't manage to watch the whole thing for whatever reason, you can get access to the recording. My recommendation though is stay on until the end, because you know we know when we look at the facts and figures that nobody ever goes back and watches the recording. So take it in while it's live. You've got the opportunity to ask the questions as well. Over to you, Chenoa.
Oh, what a lovely introduction. Thank you, Shane. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, Andrea and I worked together, oh gosh, many moons ago now. So a while back. So thank you very much, Andrea, for introducing me. And thanks, guys, very much for having me on today. So I'm going to run through a little presentation. I'm kind of a less is more kind of girl. So through my PowerPoint presentation, there's only a few slides, probably about 11, so it might finish earlier. What I'll try and do is let's try and save the questions to the end. It kind of helps with the flow. But yeah, so ask away, but I will try and get to those at the end. Okay, now let me just go and share my presentation here with you. Okay. Now, let's see. Can everyone, let's see, I don't think, can you guys see that?
Yeah, I can see the entire presentation. It's not running at the moment, so we can see the slides to come there as well. So
great.
Perfect. Spot on.
How's that looking? Are we there?
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, today is all about harnessing the power of the media. Obviously, as Shane said up front, this is about securing your own media, what I like to call DIY media coverage. And it is so powerful, which we will get onto in just a second. So what are we going to cover? What is PR? As Shane said, you guys probably know this, but I'll just cover it a little bit in a minute. Why is it great for business? It's amazing for business. I mean, I would say that because that's what I do. Also, I'm going to cover what are journalists looking for? Probably more importantly, what aren't they looking for? And is it right for your business? I think you guys probably know what the answer is going to be for that. And my 5 top tips, and actually the 5 steps I go through for landing media coverage, I'm going to share with you guys. And how to pitch to the press, what to do and what not to do. I'm also going to show you a little insight on what to include in a press release as well. Very short and sweet. And finally, some story ideas to start considering. Okay, who am I? I'm originally from Louisiana. I've been here for just over 25 years. I'm a PR and media relations strategist. I've spent pretty much the last 25 years working in the corporate world in many sectors, housing, social housing, property, aerospace, startup technology, Premier League football, education. So it's a real mixed bag. And about 2 years ago, I was sitting in my office and I thought, you know what? PR is so powerful. It shouldn't be the preserve for just corporates and just brands who have a lot of money. Even businesses of any size really should be able to learn and know how to do media coverage. So that's when I thought, you know what? I'm chucking in the whole corporate world and I'm going to start on my own. And that was 2 years ago, and I haven't looked back. In the last couple of months, I'm starting to coach and do group coaching and courses now. So here I am. That's me. Okay. So what is PR? PR, or public relations in the broadest sense, is about building those relationships with your customers, but also with your stakeholders, regulators. But today I'm focusing purely on one piece of that jigsaw. I'm focusing on media relations. That is what I've niched down to. And this is about appearing in your local, your regional, or your national newspapers, your glossy magazines, your trade magazines, radio, appearing on podcasts, on guest blogging, on TV, like I'm doing today with a webinar. Those are the areas that I coach my clients in. Why is it great for business? The number one reason that you want to get and secure that media is third-party credibility. That credibility is like gold dust. As a business, you get more bang for your buck. And it's free. It's free. It takes your time. It costs your time. But in terms of positioning you guys as experts in your field, building your audience, you get more than paid for advertising. Why is that? These days, people, they know they're being sold to and when they're being sold to. And I don't know about you, but these days, advertising feels a bit salesy, a bit pushy. PR is far from that, because what you're doing is you are getting a third party. You're getting the journalist or the blogger or the podcaster to endorse you and what you do. That is one of the most powerful things you can get and you can do. How does that help your business? Helps attract new clients, helps to really enforce that credibility and to position you as an influencer within your sector, within your area as well. It helps more people to discover you. When you start to appear in articles online, and you may have covered this in some other point, that drives people to your website. You know, that SEO, that sort of juice that people can go in and find you. You will often see when people search and you've been in the press, those articles come up. They come up normally on the first page of Google, and that is like gold dust. And finally, positioning you as the go-to expert. I'm often asked to work with CEOs, with directors, to position them as the thought leaders in their space, the expert in their space. And the first thing I do with them is get them media coverage, because there's no better way of doing that. It's great, right? Sounds great. It's not a quick fix. So it's not a magic pill. You're not gonna appear in an article overnight and become the star. But If you do it consistently, if you have a plan over a few months, it is amazing for raising that profile. And often when I know I'm doing a good job, when I'm working with a client and they go from no profile to all of a sudden people saying, oh my goodness, I'm seeing you everywhere. Your business is everywhere. Your name is everywhere. That's when you know you're doing a good job and your profile's getting raised through PR. So what are journalists looking for? Well, great stories. Example, journalists are only looking out for their audience. The reason why is they have to put their audience front and center. They are the ones that are driving traffic to their website. They are the ones driving any kind of sales and advertising. So the more people, the more bums on seats, the more eyes they can get with the stories and those sort of areas, that is when they are at the peak. So they're only looking for great stories that are timely, relevant, compelling. They can't be salesy. You can't over talk about your business. Some of these sound a little bit harsh, but when I sit down with my client, I got to give them the truth and go, look, this is what the journalists are looking for. It's the so what factor. Has it passed the so what factor? So is it new? Is it first of its kind? Would anyone other than you, your family, your mom, would anybody else other than you find it interesting? Is there anything unusual or extraordinary about the story? And this is another one, and journalists will often refer to this. Does it pass the pub test? So in other words, you sit and you're having a drink with your friends in the pub. Would somebody say, ooh, did you hear about this? And finally, if you said no to any of those, it's probably you either give that story a miss or you rethink what that story is about and turn it on its head. So can I hire a PR consultant? Yeah, of course. Yeah. But there's a cost. Consultants will often charge $1,500 to $3,000 a month. That's on a retainer. Sure, when you get to a certain point in your business, it's probably a great idea to hire a consultant. But it's tough kind of finding this kind of money sometimes. And I always think even if you do hire a consultant at some point, it's good to know and to understand a bit about how to secure that media coverage so that you're in a better position to advise and to also work with that consultant. But with these steps, you can do it yourself. Okay. How do I know if PR is right for my business? I think you guys are going to know what I'm going to say here. I do get people asking this question, and the simple answer is yeah, it's right for any business, really. I've never ever come across a business that doesn't benefit from media coverage from private sector, public sector. It's just more about the positioning. It's about the words you might use. But yeah, every business is pretty much ripe for media coverage. Okay, so 5 top tips for landing media coverage. And these are actually what I go through with each of my clients. So always start with the why for your business. So understand what you're trying to do. What are you trying to achieve? As I mentioned earlier, are you trying to position yourself as a go-to expert? Are you trying to position yourself with other clients? Do you want to attract new clients? Are you launching a new service? So all of this and understanding what you're trying to achieve will inform where you actually go. Also, have a think about what your specialist subject, what's your niche topic, what do you want to talk about, what are you keen to be known about, what sort of reputation do you what do you want people to remember you for? That really kind of informs everything that you're doing and where you will start to target. Next, who are you trying to reach? So who's your ideal client? Are they businesses within their first 3 years? Are they medium-sized businesses? Are they corporates? Are they in a specific sector that you'd like to target? What, who are they? Also, again, you may have done this in some other work in terms of your ideal client. What are their pain points? What do they want to know? What do they need help with that you can help them out with? This is all very, very important in terms of communicating your messages and developing your story about who you are. What do they read? So what does your ideal client read? Where do they go to for their information? Do they read the FT? Do they read blogs? Do they look at trade magazines? Where are they going to consume their media? Do they listen to podcasts? Knowing that is incredibly important, because it helps to start to filter your list of media that you want to that you want to target. And also, what actions can you take to better understand what sort of content might work in those publications, in those media? That is probably one of the biggest tips that I can tell you. If you're looking to target a media, a publication, a magazine, pick it up, buy it, look at it online. You don't even have to spend the money to do it. Look through it, look through the headlines. You will be surprised at how many people don't do that, and you will be a step ahead. The amount of people I work with that don't even think, they want to be in a target publication. Maybe they want to be in The Guardian, but they don't read it. They don't know what sort of headlines, what kind of content is in there. You do that, and you will be not one step, you'll be 5 steps ahead of the competition. And then, how do you connect with those journalists? Where do they go? How can you get in contact with them? So those are the steps that I go through with clients. So how to pitch to the press? These are a bit of insider knowledge, because I've got quite a few friends who work in journalism, who have worked on nationals, who have worked in regional publications, and it helps that I've been doing this for about 25 years. I've just covered it before, but read the magazine. Take note. If you want to be in the FT, if you want to be in your local paper, wherever you want to be, take note of the journalists that are covering your sector. Take a note of their name. Go and find their email address. It's very, very easy to do these days. Start to make a list. Start to make an Excel spreadsheet. Put all the information in there, and keep that in your media list. Also, take note of the kind of headlines, and keep a note of the last story they did. This will help you when you come to pitch. Now, instead of cold emailing, this used to be big. Gosh, I'm giving my age away. When I started, it was about faxing press releases. I know I'm totally giving away my age, but we used to fax press releases. And then we kind of moved up to emailing, and we used to just send out an email, gosh, years ago, newsdesk at your local paper. What you need to do is find the journalist. So more importantly than actually targeting the publication, you need to target the journalists themselves. One of my other tips is, I don't know if you ever heard of it, or if you're ever on Twitter. If you are not on Twitter, I really recommend that you are, even just to go and look. But follow the hashtag journal request. That is what journalists put in any kind of tweets when they're looking for case studies, they're looking to interview people, or they want a comment piece. And there's an incredible amount of these requests that go out every day. As you can imagine, for what I do, I keep it open all day, and I'm constantly on it looking for my clients, sending to my clients, going, have you seen this? Have you seen that? It's a gold mine for that kind of do. for that kind of thing. And also, when you come across something that is of interest, or a journalist that's interest that is writing about your topic area, like them, go and follow them, go and comment on one of their posts, reply to their questions. One caveat to that is don't be creepy about it. Like, I've seen people go in and like really stalk journalists. Do it in a way that it's like informative and chatty. And what that does is that starts to nurture a relationship with them, so that when you go to email them with your story, they'll go, oh, where do I know that name from? So that they're more likely to then click on and read your email. Okay, press releases and short pitches. These days, press releases, I recommend that you pitch something very short and very, very sweet in an email form. The big thing that you don't want to do as well is an attachment. Never try and attach a PDF of your press release or PDF of your Word document. What journalists, they get, some of the really popular journalists of some of the magazines get tons. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of press releases and emails a day. So keep it short and keep it sweet and keep it in the body of your email, and get to the point very, very quickly, because they don't have a lot of time. Personalize your email. As I mentioned before, years ago, we used to go, "Dear editor," this is when I'm learning. This is when I was first starting out on my career. And you look back and, all the mistakes you did at the beginning, but always try and personalize, "Hey, Kathy, you might be interested in this story." So personalize the email. Go out of your way to find their contact details. Also, get the timing right. Some of the trade, well, certainly when you think in magazines, they're working 3 and 4 months ahead of time. So, if there's some sort of story that you want to get in for September, October, you should be submitting ideas now. They work well and ahead. Also, if the regional papers, or if there's a specific publication, look on the website, or contact them and ask them, when is your deadline? When are you working on this? It shows that you care about their time, and you want to know more about their deadlines. Oh, this one, never ever ring them. Oh my goodness. The days of ringing the press. I used to be scared to death generally as a young PR calling up, oh my goodness, what are they going to say? But they're human, they're people too. But these days, they are so busy. I know a lot of journalists just keep their phone switched off. And in fact, in terms of keeping track of their time, they also have their emails. They've got that switched off, and they only look maybe morning, lunch, and evening. So what I do is I would never ring them, always email them. And make sure that your subject is quite interesting and intrigues them. You don't really want to go press release, da, da, da. You want to go, oh, I've got a story idea, or a really good one, if you're in the same town as the journalist, is, do you want to go for a coffee? Free cake. They love freebies. But a lot of them don't have time. So stick with more of the sort of, think clickbait. I know it's terrible to say, but think clickbait when you're writing your subject in your email. And if you want journalists to find you, because they do go on to Twitter and they do search in LinkedIn for experts and people looking at certain topics, make yourself easy to find. Have a short bio on your Twitter, on your LinkedIn. Make sure it's jargon free as well. Okay, how to pitch to the press. In terms of press releases, I don't know if you guys have ever sort of looked at this or covered how you put together a press release. But when journalists are first starting out, they learn what is called the inverted pyramid, and they are taught. So all the key information to a story is right at the top. So you want the who, you want the what, when, why, where, how, all in your first line. And then as you go down, the information is less and less important until you get to the bottom where it's the least important information. The reason for this, how this started was years ago in the newsroom. The sub-editors would come in, and if they had to cut the story, they would start from the bottom and start to cut from the bottom up. That's why journalists are always taught to put everything in the first sentence or couple of paragraphs. And that's how they work, and that's how they think, and that's how they're used to approaching stories. So if you follow that, you won't go far wrong. Okay. Potential stories and content. Think around the edges of your business. I know this sounds really harsh, and I say this to everybody in the nicest possible way because I want you to succeed when it comes to press. Journalists aren't interested in your business. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's like being at a party with the person who's talking about themselves the whole time. No one wants to be in the party with that person, right? And I hope I'm never that person. You want to be the person that's talking about interesting things, right? Well, think around the edges of your business. So, for example, you're opening a new office. Think in terms of how that's going to impact on the local economy. I know to you guys or to you, it might feel like a big deal opening an office, and it is, but you got to think about the newsworthy angle. For a local paper or regional paper, they'll be like, oh, wow, how is this going to impact our economy? You know, what jobs are going to come out of that? So think about the wider, more strategic interest around that story. Big one for thinking about stories is how-tos, or how do you do this, or how do you do that? Also something called listicles. I love that word, but it's all about lists. 4 things to, 5 things, you know, that kind of thing. Also, another one is comment pieces, opinion pieces. You know, when the budget's being announced or launched, offer yourself up locally or regionally to make a comment. When there's changes to regulations, you know, offer yourself up to explain in layman's term what this means to business. You know, you guys are in a very, very privileged position in terms of working with businesses. Your knowledge that you have to have as an accountant for business is amazing. Tap into that. Share your expertise, you know, help your clients. Be seen as the expert that you guys are and share that knowledge. The potential story ideas. It could be something, I've put some at the bottom there. 4 things to consider when you're starting a consultancy. 5 ways to streamline, you know, these are 2 listicles there. 5 ways to streamline your small business finances. Tips for managing your small business. How to avoid self-assessment nightmares. But you kind of get the idea there. Think, turn it on its head. Make it clickbaity. Also, any kind of challenges you've overcome, struggles, you as a business. Those are always great to share. And also, when you start to go onto the journo request on Twitter, you'll also get an idea of the kinds of stories that journalists are looking for, what sort of pitches they're looking for as well. Another good resource, if you're like journo request, is, I don't know if you've ever heard, there's a couple of places that you can go and register for free and become a source where journalists go and put out story ideas. Places like HARO, Help a Reporter Out, as well, that's helpareporterout.com, where you'll get a daily email of journalists who are looking for stories. It's very US based, but you do get the occasional UK story. And also sourcebottle.com. Though that's another good place. And that's sort of UK. There are worldwide, but UK, Australian. You can ignore but you can pick the sector and also the region of the world. You can pick the UK. So there's a couple that you could go and register for free. Okay, and that's it, really. Any questions? I'd love for you guys to go and connect with me. But just before I forget, I am running a little free 5-day challenge in my Facebook group, the Media Savvy Community, where I will be challenging my members in there to get the media ready by the end of the week. So would love to see some names and faces in there. So, as I promised, short and sweet and hopefully informative for everybody as well.
Yeah, I found that incredibly useful myself, Chenoa. Thank you very much. And in fact, one of the elements there, I was going to pop on my screen, but I thought, well, I'll not interrupt you, I'll share it at the end. But I remembered Steve Pipe. So many of the people that have attended here will know Steve Pipe, who founded AVN in the first place. Before he founded AVN, he was in an accountancy practice based in Watford, and he used to use the press releases incredibly effectively. And I can remember him sharing his first press release was accountancy practice doubles overnight.
There you go.
All it was, he'd taken on his first employee.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's just little things like that that actually the journalists love to get out a big headline. And yeah, it worked really well for him. It was it was almost humorous, but it generated interest as well. So little things like that can make a
exactly.
So
yeah.
I thought there's some great examples there. So are there any questions from the people listening right now? Give us any question you've got in the chat box. Maybe you've got an idea for something that you could potentially put in there, and you just want to run it by us. Would that be sufficient? In fact, just while you're thinking about that, share maybe a missed opportunity. Recently, I was talking to one of our member firms who actually helped one of his clients adopt a baby.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason he helped was because financially, his client's business wasn't generating a level of income to support the size of house that he needed. So actually, by working much more closely with him, he helped him improve his business, generate the additional income, get the mortgage that he needed, get the house that he needed, which then enabled him to have the baby. That, I suspect, would have been an amazing press release.
Amazing. And it's never too late, unless they're 12.
So, yeah, so, there's a few of you on here now. What are the things that maybe spring to your mind right now that you could do? So everybody's holding back on that one. Come on, somebody could put something in there. If not, then we will call it a day. But it is a great opportunity just to tap into Chenoa's experience and expertise right now whilst we're on here. One thing I would recommend that you do, Chenoa, is copy and paste that link to your group, maybe straight into the chat box now. That will enable people to maybe click on that straight away, and then they can join your group. I do recommend that. There's a lot of discussions take place in there, and oh right, we've got one from Kerry. So is there something similar to the journal request for newer online media?
Let's see. Is there something similar to journal request for newer online media? I'm not sure what that means. Could you ask that a slightly, mean, because this is on Twitter. So if you go to Twitter and search for journal requests, that will bring up any requests from journalists anywhere. That wouldn't be reading traditional. Oh, sorry. I misunderstood. Yeah. It covers everything. In fact, I'm going to be totally honest with you. Most of it is online requests. So you get bloggers in there. You get Forbes, entrepreneur magazine, but most of them are completely online. You also get people asking for a I can't speak now, podcast interview. So it is mainly online. So actually, if you're looking for traditional print, the journo request is probably not the best one. So have a little look and see, because it's amazing what comes up in there. Hope that helps.
Yeah, just a different example as well as to how this stuff can happen. A close friend of mine, he is wonderful with his hands, so nothing to do with accountancy practice at all. But recently he got involved in chainsaw sculpting.
Oh,
totally random and out there. However, a friend of mine, a friend of his friend, if that makes sense, works for the local paper, the Derbyshire Times. So we recommended, why don't you let him know some of the stuff that you're doing? So he put this in the Derbyshire Times, a photograph of one of the sculptures he'd done. Lots of other surrounding areas saw that and then got in touch with him and wanted their version of a photograph with him. That then was seen by the BBC. The BBC did that as well. It was all online. It didn't go into the prints or anything, but the coverage that he got, the exposure, was fantastic. And that was just from approaching a friend of a friend who works for the local paper.
Exactly. And you know what? Use those contacts, because the warmer the contact, the more likely that you're going to get your story in. Also, it's got a knock-on effect. You're exactly right. Especially if you appear in the local regional paper, the amount of nationals that review those and scan those for stories is phenomenal, as well as paper and, as well as the radio and the TV. So, yeah. And you know some interesting people as well, Shane. You get some great stories.
So a reminder as well for those of you who are AVM members listening in right now, in System Builder there are lots of resources for getting press releases. I'm thankful that they complement the advice that Chenoa has given, but take that in mind and set yourself a target to, follow Chenoa's advice there, that recommendation. Follow the journal requests. I've just been glancing through them myself, and there's some great opportunities for all of us, I think, to seize on in there. So there's no you say that none of us are doing this as much as we could be doing, myself included. Right. Well, if you, hang on a minute, there's a question in the Q&A. That's a different box than the one I've got loaded up. Will you share the slides? So that was raised anonymously. Are you, well, the recording of this session is going to be made available. So what we'll do is, for the attendees, I'll put a link on afterwards in an email that we'll send out. Just say, here's a click to record. Obviously, that's got the slides on it. Will that suffice? I can't say by name, but if you just want to respond into the chat box, if that's enough for you, you'll be able to flick through the video and see those slides for yourself. So hopefully that'll be okay. Otherwise, I bid you all a good day. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Thank you very much to you, Chenoa, for delivering the presentation as well. Remember, when I end this, that link that's in the chat box will disappear. So at the very least, well, click on it. It'll take you there now. Copy and paste it if you want to do that later on. But it's definitely worth joining that group. There's nothing to lose.
Thanks, Shane.
Right. All the best. Thank you very much, Chenoa.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All the best. Bye-bye.